Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Thoughts of the Young Icon with me, Sam. Today, I tackle a very interesting topic that has been coming up time and time again. Sam, I'm struggling with my work, I'm struggling with my school. I don't know how to work hard, I don't know what to do. Sam, help me. This is a question which I get quite a bit. I've been speaking with a lot of young people, and they come to me, they say, Sam, you're a successful guy. How do you do it? Well, in this video, I share with you some of the conversations I've had and also some of the advice that I give to them. Because I realize that so many people are asking me that question, that there's plenty more who would like to know. So in this video, I drop some gems letting you know how you can become successful by ensuring that you work hard, you work smart, but I have some special terms that I use that are going to help make this even easier. Enjoy the video. So today I want to address a topic that I think is very interesting, something that's been on my mind for a little bit because for one reason or another, I found myself talking to a lot of young people recently. So when you talk to a lot of young people, they ask you a lot of questions. And what I realize is from those conversations, I think it's only fair that I share some of the questions that they had for me and some of the answers I gave them because I believe they'll be beneficial to a lot of young people. And my desire, as always, is to provide good information which helps people better their lives. So the question that I had that I've been thinking about lately is someone asked me about my time in school and how I succeeded. Basically, they were trying to ask me what my routine was like, or in a short version, what they were saying is, Sam, did you work very hard in school to pass? And so I lingered upon that question for a little bit. Of course, when I spoke with them, I had a quick answer. But after I went home, I sat on it and I thought about it. Looking back, I have always felt as though education was easy for me. It came naturally to me. But what I then realized was, no, it's not so much that it came naturally to me. It's just, I guess the teachers in my early years told me the right things to do. And by telling me the right things to do, they gave me a platform which then made my later educational and academic endeavors simple. So today, what I want to bring forward is two things. Firstly, working hard and working smart. But I'm not going to term them as working hard and working smart. In a recent preaching that our man of God taught, I think he explained it more clearly and in a way that is actually better than working hard and working smart. He says he referred to it as laboring appropriately and laboring sufficiently. That's the key to success. You see, a lot of people fail simply because they do not know that they need to labor, firstly, appropriately, and secondly, sufficiently. What do I mean by labor appropriately? There was a turning point in my academics, or when I really began to understand the world. And that was the point where I realized that you need to address what's being asked of you in that moment in time. In any exam, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, I think even as early as primary school, what you realize is that in the classes, during the term, during the semesters, there's so much that is taught to you, but not all of that is going to be examined. In fact, not all of it is examinable. A lot of it is just sort of give you baseline knowledge, to give you a baseline understanding. But what is actually going to be examined is something else, which is going to show that you have that baseline knowledge and baseline understanding. Now, do I say you must skip the baseline and only practice your exams? No, that's not the way to go about it. However, in order to labor appropriately, you need to understand what your exam is going to be. So in order to be positioned to pass an exam, in order to be positioned to pass an interview, you need to understand what interviews or what exams are about. If it's a subject, for example, mathematics, if you get a hold of the syllabus, if you get a hold of past papers, if you get a hold and an understanding of what has been asked before, that is going to direct you in how you must prepare. So that is going to give you the appropriate approach. It's going to give you the appropriate subject matter for you to study. You see, if you're preparing for an interview, or rather you've been called for an interview, and you've never been to an interview before, you've just finished college, you've never spoken with someone who's been into an interview, you have no idea on what interviews entail. You have no idea on what the etiquette of an interview is. You don't know. Now, you can decide that you're going to work hard by ensuring that you go and buy a suit, you go and buy a tie, and you're going to iron them that day. And you decide that, not you decide, in this instance, your insufficient or inappropriate information has led you to believe that in order to pass an interview, you just need to appear a certain way. Though that tackles part of it, that is not appropriate. In order to pass an interview, you need to show competency in the subject matter or in the job that these guys are offering. So you need to understand the job description. You need to understand elements of the company. So you need the appropriate knowledge. And so what I would like for you to understand as my listeners is, in any subject matter, just if you want to excel, just understand what excelling is. The moment you don't understand what excelling is, then you can't excel. You can excel maybe by accident, but 9 out of 10 times you cannot excel because you don't know what excelling is. So if you cannot labor appropriately, if you don't know what excelling is, you cannot labor appropriately. And by not being able to labor appropriately, you cannot achieve your desired result, or you cannot achieve a result that is going to give you your desired effect. So laboring appropriately. In this example of the interview, you need to speak with people who have gone to interviews before. You need to speak with people who have been part of interview panelists. You need to speak with people who are in HR and go all the way. You see, it's going to take us to our next part of the discussion, which is laboring sufficiently. But you need to start by understanding what the appropriate labor is in order to attain your desired results. And then we're going to go to the second part, which is sufficient. So you've understood that going to an interview is beyond wearing good formal clothes, a nice dress, good makeup. You now understand that there's far much more. The next part is to understand the whole context of what an excellent interview would be. So you need to labor sufficiently. Our man of God, Pastor Aubrey, he gave the example of a car. If you have a car, let's say you are driving a car and you want to get to Lilongwe. Can a car drive to Lilongwe? Yes, it can. What does a car need to drive to Lilongwe, or what do you need to put in a car to drive to Lilongwe? Fuel. However, if you put 5 liters of petrol in your car and you're trying to get to Lilongwe, even though you have a car and even though you have put fuel in that car, you have not put in enough fuel for that journey. So you have labored appropriately, but you have not labored sufficiently. So by driving the car, putting fuel in the car, that is appropriateness. But by only putting 5 liters, that is a lack of sufficiency. So you need to labor sufficiently. Laboring sufficiently in this example of a car would mean, let's say your car's fuel consumption is 10 kilometers on the liter. You know that Lilongwe is 330 kilometers away. So this should automatically tell you that The minimum amount of fuel that you require is 33 liters of fuel. Did I get the math right? Yes. 33 liters of fuel. So for you to labor sufficiently in this instance, you need to ensure that you put in your car more than 33 liters. And that same principle, that same concept applies in life. Don't aim for the bare minimum. If you understand the syllabus, if you look at past papers, if you have an understanding on what job interviews require, go that extra mile. Study. Talk to the right people who have the right information. Go the extra mile. Go on YouTube. Read books. Enhance your knowledge. You see, you don't need to work hard. You just need to work smart. So you don't need to work out of the ordinary. You just need to understand your scope of work anytime you find yourself needing to work. So for me, I firmly believe, like in any endeavor that I partake in, firstly, I start by understanding what my scope is. I start by understanding what it is that needs to be done. So by having a full picture of what needs to be done, I then plan my work accordingly. I remember when we were in college, I had so many people who every night they were in the library studying from say 8 p.m. until 12 midnight, and I just never understood what they were doing. If you had a syllabus and you know the topics that you're supposed to address, you know the topics which are examinable, ensure that you tackle those and you tackle them sufficiently. Many people just like to labor for the sake of laboring. And in fact, when you go out of the scope of your assignment too much in regards with your labor, what ends up happening is you end up confusing yourself. You remove efficiency, you remove effectiveness, and especially for you students, when you start to write your exam, what ends up happening is you've read so much and the question is asking for something very simple, but because you've read so much, you've gone so far out of your scope, you start to explain things which don't need explaining, and you end up losing marks, or you confuse yourself with so many concepts from so many ideas. Now, I'm not saying not to read widely in life. What I'm saying is understand your scope, understand what is being required, and then read in accordance to that. And this is something that you can use for your entire life, even at your job. Understand your job description. Understand what it is that your company is going to regard as good work coming from you. Understand your key performance indicators. When you have a good understanding of your job, you have a good understanding of your key performance indicators, and you hit them, your boss is going to be happy. If you go above and beyond, your bosses will be even happier than that. They'll promote you for that. However, if you start with above and beyond and you miss what is actually your key performance indicators, then your boss is not going to be happy. And that's what happens with many people. They believe that they're working hard. They believe that, no, they're being treated unfairly. They're being marked poorly, even though they clearly know what it is that is being asked of them. Many times, the problem comes in as, even though you know what's being asked of you, even though you know your job, you're just not doing it. And it's not unfair for someone to then come in and tell you, you're not doing your job and we're going to fire you, or you're not doing your job, here's a warning. So don't find yourself in a situation where at your job you're hired as an accountant, but you spend most of your time in the marketing department coming up with good adverts. Is coming up with good adverts bad? No, it's not. However, it's not what you've been called to do. It's not what you've been hired for. So whenever you find yourself in any endeavor, ensure that you're laboring appropriately. So you understand what is required of you, and you ensure that of what is required of you, you get that done. Then the next part is you labor sufficiently. What is required of you, you get it done to the best of, one, your ability, but two, not just your ability. Actually, this is a good point that has come up. See, when you're working, many people like to give the statement or the excuse that I gave it my best. That's all I can do. That's not true. You gave it your best. You gave it all you could do with the information that you have. If you had just read a bit more on that subject, on the appropriate subject, your best would have been better. This excuse of I gave it my best, that's really what it is. It's an excuse. You can't say you gave it your best and it ends there. When you give something your best, you need to ensure that your best is the best that there is, given the information that is available. And in this day and age where there's so much information available on the internet, so many books, we need to ensure that our best is truly as close to the best as we can get, given the resources available at our hands. Many other times where your best report was terrible simply because 90% of your workday, or maybe 90 is too much, 80% of your workday, you were on TikTok flipping through videos, or you were on WhatsApp looking at statuses or chatting to your friend. Now, you can't then come back and say that I gave it my best. No, you didn't. You need to start actually giving work your best. You need to start giving every endeavor your best. And it doesn't just go to academics and career, even in your relationships. Guys, ladies, let's give our relationships our best. Let's give that person our attention. Let's give them our affection. Let's give them our time if they require of it. Don't find yourself calling it your best, but when someone else looks at it, they say your best is not good enough. I recently had a conversation which brought this thing to light to me, where I realized that in this life, that there truly is a right way and a wrong way of going about things. If you find yourself in a situation, or rather, let me illustrate this by using this situation. I think a lot of us watching this video, we went to school before, and we probably had assignments where there was a passage that we had to read, and then we had to explain what that passage meant, basically comprehension. If you notice that between two students, a teacher, even though it's one passage and the teacher receives two assignments from two students, what you realize is student A can get A and student B can get D. Now, both of them read the same paper, but their comprehension of the paper was different, and so it was graded differently. Now, if you dig deeper, what you realize is that person A, the one who got the A, versus person B who got the D, their apprehension or the appropriateness of what they wrote is different. So that's what differs. If you write the appropriate thing, you will get a higher grade. And it applies again in career and in relationships. In order to succeed in a relationship, in order to succeed in your career, in order to succeed in every endeavor of life, ensure that you are laboring appropriately. You are doing the parameters of that task, and you're laboring sufficiently. You are doing those parameters to the extent that needs to be done. It's not enough to just do the parameters, but you do them to the extent that needs to be done. If you've listened this far, I'd like you to hit that like button. I'd like you to hit subscribe. I'd like you to comment. Let me know your thoughts on what I've just spoken. Let me know if it resonates with you, or if you disagree, please let me know as well. I'll definitely address that in my upcoming videos. And don't forget to tell a friend about Thoughts of the Young Icon. Thank you.